This is a crankshaft pulley I like to use, and I'm about to send it off to be machined. Why? Because it is a double groove pulley, uno, dos, and I only use the rear belt groove. So it's always bugged me to have a double groove crank pulley while all my other pulleys are single groove. And while there's a small, I guess, weight bonus, basically what I'm talking about here is rotational inertia or accelerating mass. It's going to be mostly just looks and something that bugs me. So I plan to have them chop off this front groove and maybe thin down this center, rib a little bit more like the front rib. So we'll see. Hopefully it comes back as I expect. I mean, it won't be as fancy and nice looking, but it just bugs me that there's this wasted groove, down there in the engine spinning. Now, I also have two other of the same exact pulley already, in the box, so 3 pulleys total. Because the way I figure it is when you're having something machined, setup is usually the biggest, cost part of it. So I might as well get others done because I like to use this pulley because it is a underdrive pulley, and it is the smallest underdrive pulley you can get for a short style water pump that bolts, with less spacing to the crank. If it was a long style water pump, there'd be more back to the pulley right here that was just nothing, and we won't get into that. Actually, let's get into that. Here you can see the different crank pulleys. Also, here's a clip from a recent video I made. Now, earlier I mentioned short water pump pulleys and long water pump pulleys. You can see the difference right there. This is essentially flat. So it's obvious the flatter pulley will weigh less because you don't have all that meat right there. One other thing I like to mention is mandrels. When used with long style water pumps, you can even go with a smaller diameter on the crank drive pulley. Though mandrels are more often used to drive aftermarket accessories like vacuum pumps, mechanical fuel pumps. There's unlimited combinations. But as I said, this is the shortest diameter because you can see right here, these notches for the bolts, they can't go any smaller. If they went smaller diameter, you couldn't get the bolts in, and you get the idea. Anyways, I got my scale out so we can measure it real quick because I want a before and after just to see how much of a weight reduction. It's a heavy pulley, but it's got a thick back to it. And you can see right there how the thickness right there. So I don't think cutting this front rib off will save much weight, but a little bit of weight. Let's see right here, it is 1 pound exactly. So we'll see how much chopping that front rib off lowers it. And as I said, it's a pulley I like to use, so I have 3 of them. Now, some people in the past have mentioned that I could get a custom pulley made, but the price I paid for these pulleys was reasonable. They've actually gone up in the past few years. They've pretty much doubled in price. But I bought 2 new and 1 of them used, so I have just over $100 into these pulleys, and I'm gonna get the machine for roughly less than $100. I'm also getting some other work done and shipping costs. But so versus the cost of a custom pulley, back when I looked into it, if I had this idea, it would have cost me about, I think, about $250 for one custom pulley. So I mean, I didn't ask about additionals because usually they, as I said, set up, so they might have given me a lower price for additional pulleys, but I think this is the better route to go. No one else makes a single groove pulley that small a diameter, so this is, kind of my only option other than a custom pulley, which would be more expensive. Might look better if I was going for purely cosmetics, but mostly just because it annoys me to see that empty, rib. So, anyways, I'm rambling on. I guess we'll pick up this video when I get the pulleys back and show you what they look like and how much they weigh. And they're back. Well, it's been a minute actually, because I was working on some clips for other videos and whatnot. But here they are, and bonus, they painted them for me. You see right here? There's no fresh machine cut surface. They're nice and painted, which is, well, compared to this Pulley right here, a pretty close match. So I mean, that's awesome. You know, above and beyond. Nice job. See for yourself right here how much they cut off compared to the old clip, which I'll insert. I plan to have them chop off this front groove and maybe thin down this center, you know, rib a little bit more like the front rib. And if you remember, I had them narrow down this center part, which was, I believe, wider than this other end, which you can see here. Here's the old lip which they included. Something like that. So not quite as narrow, but close enough. So without further delay, let's see how much lighter they are. Though not much, because the bulk of the weight is in the back. I mean, you look how thick it is right here, or in the actual holes. It's pretty thick. Okay, that's zeroed out. And here we go. $12 ounces. And a pound is what, 16 ounces? So 4 ounces. Not a big deal. I wasn't expecting much, but you know, here and there. And if you had any weight to lose on a rotational object, it's the outer weight, which is, you know, it's all outer weight. In fact, I was even thinking about, if I want to, I could drill more holes, because you can see right for yourself, there's already 6 holes, and I could add an additional 6 holes between the bolts. Now, I didn't want to pay someone to do that. I figured, you know, if I want to go to that extreme, I can do that in my own time. But, I mean, there's other ways that I thought about lightening things. For example, these are your balancer bolts right here. This is an ARP setup and your stock setup. Now the ARP is noticeably longer and it has this big bulky head. You hear the light? See right there? ARP. But I really like this for the square ratcheting. I mean, that's my I mean, there's no slipping off on that. I've actually forgotten the ratchet on there sometimes, and you definitely do not want to forget the ratchet on there when you start it. Trust me. But they also include this larger, you know, bulky washer, which I have over here. I already have a few of these titanium washers, which actually fit better on the Pulley. You can see there's a, well, it's hard to see, but there's a bit of an outer radius right there. When you put the ARP washer on there, it doesn't even go in there. So if the washer was to work on friction, the washer is barely getting any friction from this outer, you know, bit, because it's hovering over this whole center mass. So this fitting in there, it's actually going to have better surface contact, and it's much lighter because it's also titanium and thinner. See right here. Fire this up again real quick. I mean, that's quite a bit of difference. If I can get the balance. Right there, side by side. Big difference. Let's see, the scale's back on. Weigh this real quick. Ideally, this would be grams, but you know, we're just doing this in ounces real quick. 3.5 ounces. That's a heavy washer. That's almost as much as what I removed from the Pulley, which was 4 ounces. Titanium, just over half an ounce. So quite a bit of difference. And like I said, the bolt is heavier, but this is also the center mass, which is the least, you know, effective in rotational mass reduction. Of course, larger objects like your torque converter make more of a deal, like going from a 12-inch torque converter to a 10-inch torque converter. But, you know, death by 1,000 cuts, as they say, you know, a little bit here and there. Bonus clip. But one other thing I like to do with my alternators is I change out the fan. This is a March gray powder coated fan, which is aluminum, and I believe also lighter than the stock steel fan. So just another thing that you can modify or change, and you know, for minor rotational part weight losses. Oh, and the place that did this for me, they were our BAP Racing I'll include their information in the description if you want to check them out. I'm glad I set the pulleys in. I said if I would have done it, it would have been a hacked up mess and looked nasty. These all look, great. I mean, I'm very happy with how they turned out. And like I said, a bonus, they painted them for me. By the way, how do you like my pulley holder so it doesn't roll off on me? Only the best. I'm just kidding. As I said, they did other work for me too. I had some valves that were reground, and there's plenty of other things they can do because they're a standard automotive machine shop, performance automotive machine shop, I want to say. So check them out if you want. Speaking of pulleys, I was actually working on the vet for a few, and I freaking dropped this pulley, which that really bugs me right there. You can see that. So I needed another anyway. So and this one's kind of dirty, so I'll order another one of those for the water pump. But I don't want to ramble on anymore because I can ramble about this kind of stuff. Oh, I do want to mention too, if you're really interested, I did make a video about drilling bolts, and I'll let you guess what I plan on using those bolts for. Anyways, enough of this. Thanks for watching. Keep it real.